Crystal Gayle's first steps into country music were anything but ordinary. By the time she began to dream of a career, her older sister was already a superstar. Loretta Lynn was on every radio, on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry, and firmly established as the voice of working-class America. For Crystal, that meant two things. She had a rare door into the industry, but also a burden few could carry. From the very start, she wasn't just a new voice. She was Loretta Lynn's baby sister. Loretta wanted Crystal to succeed. She took her on tour during summers and gave her chances to perform in front of live audiences. When she fell ill one evening, she let Crystal step onto the Grand Ole Opry stage in her place. It was a test, and Crystal delivered. The teenage girl with striking looks and a soft voice proved she had the talent to hold her own. But the comparisons followed her everywhere. As soon as Crystal signed her first recording contract, people whispered that she was using family ties to advance. She rejected that idea. She wanted to be known not as Loretta's extension, but as an artist with her own sound and ambitions. And that meant making choices that would separate her from the very legacy that had given her a start. But choosing her own path would come at a cost, and not everyone was ready to accept it. Crystal Gayle's voice was different from the beginning. Where Loretta was celebrated for her raw, straightforward delivery, Crystal leaned into a smooth, polished tone. Critics later called it countrypolitan, a fusion of Nashville tradition with pop elegance. Her sound was lighter, silkier, and designed for radio audiences that stretched well beyond the South. Her image matched her music. Floor-length hair became her signature. Flowing gowns and jeweled makeup made her look more like a pop star than a coal miner's daughter. She was crafting an identity that stood apart. The country establishment pushed back. Traditionalists accused her of abandoning her roots. To them, Loretta's grit represented authenticity, while Crystal's polish looked like defection. Some even suggested that Loretta herself wasn't convinced by the change. Why chase Hollywood gloss when the Webb family name was built on hard-edged truth? For Crystal, the answer was simple: because she had to. She admired Loretta, but she knew she couldn't copy her. Her role was not to duplicate a sound already perfected, but to explore what else country music could be. In time, that gamble paid off. By leaning into the style others rejected, she tapped into a new audience: urban listeners, international markets, and fans who wanted country with a pop twist. Her warmth and sophistication made her more than just a singer. She became a brand, instantly recognizable, delivering songs that carried both elegance and emotion. What looked like rejection of her roots was actually survival. Country music in the 1970s was changing fast, with Nashville producers searching for crossover success. Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, and Ronnie Milsap were all blurring the lines between country and pop. Crystal Gayle was perfectly positioned to join them. She was no longer in Loretta's shadow. She was carving a space no one else could fill. While Crystal was working to establish herself, Loretta was already cementing her place as the first lady of country music. By the early 1970s, Loretta had racked up dozens of chart-topping singles, including Coal Miner's Daughter, Fist City, and Don't Come Home A-Drinking. She was named CMA Entertainer of the Year in 1972, the first woman ever to win the honor. For Crystal, this was both inspiring and intimidating. To enter the same industry, at the same time with the same last name, was like stepping into a storm. Every move she made was measured against Loretta's achievements. Every review carried an unspoken comparison, and yet Crystal knew she couldn't walk away. Music was in her blood, and her sister's example showed her that a woman could succeed on her own terms, even if those terms had to be different. Before the world heard "Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue," Crystal was steadily building momentum. In 1975, she released Wrong Road Again, written by Alan Reynolds. The song became a top 10 hit on the country charts and introduced her as a serious contender. Somebody Loves You soon followed, climbing even higher. These early records didn't yet make her a crossover star, but they gave her credibility. She was no one-hit wonder. She was laying the foundation for something bigger. By the late 1970s, that foundation paid off. In 1977, she recorded Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue. With its haunting melody and tender vocal delivery, it struck a chord across genres. The song climbed to #1 on the country charts, #2 on the Billboard Hot 100, and became an international hit. It earned her a Grammy Award for Best Female Country Vocal Performance and sold millions worldwide. The success changed everything. Suddenly, Crystal Gayle wasn't just Loretta Lynn's sister. She was a global star. International tours took her to audiences who barely knew Loretta but adored Crystal. Her songs played on both country and pop radio stations, reaching listeners who had never considered themselves fans of Nashville before. Other hits quickly followed: Talking in Your Sleep, Half the Way, I'll Get Over You, and Ready for the Times to Get Better. Each one expanded her reputation as an artist who could balance emotion with sophistication. She became a regular on mainstream television, appearing on The Tonight Show, American Bandstand, Hee Haw, and even The Muppet Show. Crystal Gayle wasn't confined to the country audience anymore. She was in living rooms across America and around the world. This was more than success. It was validation. The risks she took, the countrypolitan sound, the polished image, the refusal to copy her sister had all been worth it. She had created something distinctive, something lasting. But success didn't erase the comparisons. In fact, they grew louder. As Crystal Gayle's star rose, Loretta Lynn remained firmly rooted in her own tradition. Loretta's songs carried the weight of coal country, marriage, motherhood, and the struggles of women in small towns. Crystal leaned into smoother themes: romance, heartbreak, lyrics that drifted just as easily onto pop radio as they did country. To fans, it became a dual legacy. Two sisters from the same Kentucky holler, standing on stages across the world with careers that reflected opposite sides of the same coin. Loretta was bold, outspoken, the matriarch of country truth. Crystal was refined, elegant, the face of country sophistication. Together, they showed how wide the genre could stretch. Industry insiders, however, never stopped comparing. Who had more hits? Who represented the real voice of country? These questions were constant and often unfair. Yet in public, the sisters never feuded. They smiled in photographs, praised one another in interviews, and refused to air grievances in front of cameras. To the outside world, they were united. Behind the scenes, the weight of constant touring and media narratives created distance. Still, when they appeared together at award shows, on television specials, or at family gatherings, there was no rivalry they allowed to overshadow their bond. For all the speculation, the truth was simpler. Loretta Lynn and Crystal Gayle had carved different paths, but they walked them with respect. Crystal's ability to remain dignified in the face of constant comparisons was part of what made her career endure. She didn't try to compete with Loretta, nor did she apologize for being different. She embraced the reality that two sisters could carry the same legacy forward in entirely different ways. That choice preserved her career and their sisterhood. If the late 70s crowned Crystal Gayle as a superstar, the 1980s proved she could sustain it. She continued delivering chart-topping singles, from Too Many Lovers to Our Love Is on the Fault Line. In 1982, she scored a major duet with Eddie Rabbitt, You and I, which became a wedding standard for years to come. On stage, she became one of the few female artists consistently headlining her own tours, playing arenas and theaters across the country. Internationally, she was embraced in Europe and Asia, proof that her countrypolitan style had universal appeal. Awards followed too. The Academy of Country Music named her top female vocalist 3 years in a row. In total, she earned over 20 #1 hits on the country charts, a record few women of her era could match. She wasn't just surviving in Loretta's shadow, she was rewriting the story of what a female artist could achieve in country music. By the 1990s, Crystal had slowed her recording schedule but never left the stage. She became a symbol of longevity, admired for maintaining her voice and elegance across decades. She appeared in tributes, special television events, and retrospectives celebrating women in country. In 2017, she received one of the highest honors in Nashville, induction into the Grand Ole Opry. For Crystal, it was a full-circle moment. As a teenager, she had stood on that stage in her sister's place. Decades later, she stood there again, not as Loretta's substitute, but as Crystal Gayle, an icon in her own right. When Loretta's health declined, Crystal was there. No cameras, no stage lights, just two sisters. Crystal sat by her bedside, visiting often, singing softly, offering the kind of comfort only family can give. After years of public comparisons, what endured was private devotion. In October of 2022, Loretta Lynn passed away at the age of 90. The world mourned a global icon. For Crystal, the loss was deeper. She hadn't just lost a star. She had lost the woman who encouraged her first songs, gave her first breaks, and remained a constant presence through every stage of her life. In the months that followed, Crystal carried herself with quiet strength. She didn't dwell on rivalry or criticism. Instead, she honored Loretta's legacy by reminding fans of the love they shared. Only Loretta could be Loretta, she told interviewers, affirming what everyone already knew, that her sister's place in history was unique. But by then the world also recognized that Crystal Gayle had earned a legacy all her own. Even now, at 74, Crystal Gayle continues to tour. Her concerts draw generations of fans, proof that her music still resonates. And when she steps onto those stages, she carries not only her own story, but Loretta's as well. Together they expanded what country music could be, and proved that family bonds endure long after the curtain falls. Crystal Gayle's journey was never simple. She began as Loretta Lynn's younger sister, watched to see if she could live up to the name. She faced criticism, endured comparisons, and carried expectations few artists could bear. But she also carved out a career entirely her own. With countrypolitan hits, Grammy recognition, and an image that defined an era, she became a legend in her own right. Her bond with Loretta was complicated, but in the end, it was unbreakable. When the spotlight faded, what remained was family, forgiveness, and love. Crystal Gayle continues to tour, continues to sing, and continues to honor not just her own legacy, but the legacy of the sister who made her believe it was possible. For more emotional stories, check out this video.